Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard.
Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast, Alternative Parties friends. We have another exciting guest on this podcast today, like we usually do. Her name is Angela Walser, and she's going to speak to us about her role in her party and also her race she's running. So welcome to the podcast, Angela.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Angela, let's get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
All right. My name is Angela Walser. That part you already covered. I am 30 years old. I am wife and I am a mother as well to 4 children. I live in Decatur, Alabama. I am running for State House District 8, which covers most of Decatur and Danville, a rural area south of Decatur, up in the northern part of Alabama, kind of close to Huntsville. I am a tutor by trade. I like to help students who don't understand what they're learning in school understand it better and get to really know and love it. I do most of that online, but I teach a few students in person, which was an especially fun job to have during the pandemic and everybody learning at home anyway. It was a great time to get to do a lot of teaching and get to meet a lot of students. I always thought I would be a marine biologist when I was growing up, but instead ended up using my biology degree to create humans and help other people learn to love biology.
Sounds good. So, since you mentioned that you are a tutor, how has your professional life contributed to your political views?
I think being a tutor has given me a really interesting perspective on the education system in our country in particular, because I get to see the challenges that public education teachers in particular are facing and how little teaching they are getting to provide. I have a sister who is currently studying to become a teacher, and I feel a lot of stress on her behalf knowing the world that she is going into and how under-supported these teachers are and how very little actual teaching they're able to do. They have their hands tied by so many restrictions and regulations, and they just need to teach to these standardized tests, and they don't get to really teach. It makes me really appreciate the position I'm in to be able to just find whatever works with me and a particular student to help them understand material and grow to know and love what we're learning about. And I think all teachers would love to be able to do that and can't. So in that way in particular, being a tutor has influenced my political views, especially over the last few years.
Sure. So what led you to the Libertarian Party in the first place?
I became introduced to the Libertarian Party with the 2020 presidential campaign in particular. I had been aware that libertarians existed, sort of, but was never going to take a third party seriously, of course, until I found myself trying to find a presidential candidate that I could vote for with a clear conscience, and found myself looking into Joe Jorgensen and more looking into the libertarian planks and realizing that, wait, this is exactly how I understand the government, the government's role. This is exactly what I was taught. This is how I always understood it to be. You mean there's a party that actually believes all of that? And I found myself really intrigued and was excited to be able to learn more about the party. I became much more involved during this election cycle when I was asked to run for office and took advantage of that opportunity.
Excellent. So what role are you in the party? I remember you telling me you had a role in the party. Kindly tell our audience about that.
I do. So the Libertarian Party of Alabama, as a third party, is working hard to create the infrastructure needed to really see success and to be organized and to be moving forward. And as such, they take advantage of anybody and everyone who is able to lend a hand and find a place to put them to good use. I accidentally let them know that I could do things, and they started asking me to do things. I took on a project to start coordinating some things between myself and the other over 60 candidates that we've raised for this race.
Wow.
And after I sent that email out to each of them individually, letting them know, okay, here's the coordination, here's what's going on, one of the candidates, who is also the chair of the Libertarian Party of Alabama, reached out and said, great, you've got a job. You're now the candidate coordinator. And so it's not a paid position or anything, but I've become the person who knows the stuff to tell the candidates and the person who knows the stuff from the candidates to tell the statewide party. So somehow that became my role in all of this, and it's been really fun. I've gotten to be a lot more involved and hands-on with the other candidates than I would have been otherwise, and getting to know each of them much better, which makes me feel even better about who I will be voting for on November 8th.
Sure. I haven't heard every party have a candidate coordinator, so that's good that they're doing that innovative position.
It is exactly that. It's been which means we're kind of figuring it out as we go along, but I think having a lot of success with it and keeping everybody as up to date as possible in this really fast moving environment here as we're coming up on Election Day.
Sure. Earlier you mentioned the cities in the district that you're representing, and as I remember, it's District 8. So kindly tell our audience, what are the demographics of those cities in your district? Is it rural, urban? Is it white, black, age, income? Kindly share all that with our audience.
Yeah, it's a really interesting and very diverse district in many, many ways. So I have Decatur, which is not, we're not talking about skyscrapers, but it's certainly a little more urban. There's a nice downtown. We've got a big science museum. We have, it's sort of Huntsville light in many ways. And then we also have Danville, which is very rural. We do have paved roads down there, but not too many, kind of a thing where you can find a lot of great, wonderful farms and it reminds me of where I was growing up, and so I have a special place in my heart for Danville and the surrounding areas there. So we have both urban and rural, although not super urban. I suppose we would be more on the side of rural altogether. And then also a really interesting mix in the demographics. We have many people who are white, many people who are black. We also have a pretty strong Hispanic population here in Decatur that are all we see everybody at these community events, and we are able to see everyone around. We also have a mix of born and raised here and 20th generation Alabamians, and who are with the thick Southern drawls and steeped in that Southern roots tradition. And then we also have a lot of transplants here in Decatur who have moved down from other areas to work particularly in the rocket manufacturing industry, which is a big deal. We have the United Launch Alliance rocket manufacturer over in Trinity, which is adjoining Decatur, and also a lot going on with Blue Origin, for example, up in Huntsville. So we have this interesting mix. Yeah, we have this fun mix of people who have been here forever and transplant rocket scientists and kind of everything in between. It's a very diverse community.
Kindly tell our audience your view of the office that you're running for. Most of these offices are people have heard of them before, so they get a big idea, but kindly tell us how you view the role of the office and how you would view your responsibility in the role.
Yes, definitely. This may be dumbing it down for some of your listeners, but as a state House representative, I would be representing the people here of District 8 of Decatur and Danville in the state legislature. I'd be going to Montgomery. I would be sitting as a congresswoman in the state House of Congress and voting on laws, on bills that are presented. And I see my role in that position as really seeking out what is best for my district. And in many ways, I feel that what that is decreasing government involvement. As a libertarian, I see most of the opportunities of that vote would be to see what I could do to reduce government interference in Decatur and in Danville on that state level. I think that there are some good things that the government can do, but I think they can be done best at the city and the municipal and the county levels. And so there at the state level, with few exceptions, I would be doing everything in my power to limit government interference and government regulation for the people in my district, and with my vote, probably for people throughout the state of Alabama.
Sure. So what specific issues are on your platform for this race? What's bothering the citizens in your area, and how do you plan to address those issues?
There's a couple of things. One of the big things in my area is education. Like I said, we've got a lot of these rocket scientists who have moved down and are looking for good education for their children in Alabama, which is ranked very, very low. We kind of seem to waffle between 49th and 50th in the nation as far as education goes, and they're concerned. So I'm hoping to be able to, and as such, we also have a lot of homeschooling families. You know, it makes sense. They would rather take care of their children's education on their own than entrust it to a failing public school system. And I am hoping to be able to enact school choice and school vouchers to better serve the people in this community. I think that if we could have more school choice so that we could kind of implement more of a free market system into the schools of this area so that people could go to schools that are better suited for their family and their needs, I think we would see all of the schools improving. And then also with those school vouchers, we have a lot of homeschool families who are paying tax money for schools that their children are not attending. And if they could instead be utilizing those dollars to bring in other businesses, to pay teachers privately, to be able to take advantage of the many, many paid-for resources that we've all come to know more about during the pandemic, I think that would be a much better use of their money than funneling it into failed public education systems. The other pet project of mine, I suppose you could say, is ranked choice voting, because I think especially as a third party, I feel like we, not only for the third party aspect of it, but really every vote on everything that we've ever done, we shouldn't have two choices. We should be able to say, well, I really want this, but if not, this would be my next favorite, and then I don't want to cast a vote for this other option at all. And by that, we can all get to where we're all happiest in many ways. We can get to this middle of the road option where we can have everybody a little bit happier, and we can also encourage the two major parties to stop running to extremes and to moderate and to come back to where the normal, average, sane voter is thinking and living, because instead we've got these two parties that are running, screaming in opposite but equally lunatic directions. And with a ranked choice vote, we would see people willing to vote for what they actually want, and it would force our country into some sanity. So that's, I feel like no other vote really matters until votes themselves matter, and we don't have that until we get ranked choice voting here in Alabama and in my dream world all throughout the nation.
Yes, that would be awesome. So kindly tell our audience what your campaign strategy is. How do you plan to reach the voters?
Great question. Because I'm part of a third party, I'm not fundraising, largely because in this day and age, I don't see that as all that essential. We now live in the age of the internet, right? And where many of us are plugged in there. And so social media and good websites and other things there of having that internet presence has been one of my main campaign strategies. In addition, I'm making sure that I am available to voters who have questions, who want answers, who through interviews such as this, for example, but also in seeking them out where they are. I've been to a couple of events, street fair type deals at booths where we can pass out stickers and water bottles and remind people to register to vote, and also be there and be available in a way that I think we don't see as much anymore. We see a lot of attack ads. We see a lot of don't vote for the other guy because he's evil, even though you don't have a lot of different things to say about yourself. We see a lot of billboards and other things that people are spending a great deal of money on, usually negatively. And so I find myself, my strategy is primarily to let the voters here in District 8 know as much as possible about me, about where I stand, and about who they would be voting for, and hoping that voters will be educated voters and seek that information out and try and make it as easy as possible for them to find.
Sure. So what activities has your campaign done so far?
My campaign was involved in the Hartsville Depot Days and also in Decatur Third Friday event. For myself and my campaign, because my district is a little small, those have been the primary events. The other Libertarians on the ballot have been involved in much greater events. We've got our gubernatorial candidate, Jimmy Blake, has been biking Bama and going around to a lot of major cities to talk with the voters there and to participate in a host of events. It makes me want to pull up the calendar and take better notes on exactly everything he's been doing. But he's been out there seeing a lot of people. We've had a few candidate forums. We had a gubernatorial debate. We had Libertarians at the Break Every Chain rally down in Montgomery, which was in support of prison reform. We got a lot of problems with our prisons here in Alabama. We also have a lot of candidates that are going to be involved in more things coming up, more candidate forums in particular up in the greater Huntsville area that I'm planning on participating in. We're still pinning down those dates, but I will have them up on my website and social media as soon as we know exactly when those will be.
Sure. So what's the ballot access situation that you're facing? Are you on the ballot already? Did you have to get signatures? What's your particular situation?
I am on the ballot already.
Awesome.
In May, we needed to, March. It was in March. I got those mixed up. Back in March, we needed to complete SEC filing and make sure that we filled out all the appropriate paperwork to get on the ballot. But Libertarians gained ballot access for this election cycle, and it was pretty hard won. They needed to spend the party spent about $250,000 in order to get all of the needed signatures, and they needed about, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but I think we needed about 57,000. We got about 80,000, and
Good.
then that was winnowed down after all of the verification to somewhere around 70,000, but still well above what was needed. And as such, the party gained total ballot access to be able to nominate Libertarian candidates. And because of that, we have over 60 candidates on the ballot, a great deal more than the Democrat Party managed to scrounge up for this election cycle. And we have a lot of really passionate and involved candidates who are excited we're kind of currently the second largest party in Alabama. We're doing a lot of really excellent, wonderful things, and it's been a really exciting journey to be on. But as far as myself and my position on the ballot, I am on the ballot. I'm there on the sample ballot. I checked as soon as they came out, making sure that nothing had gone wrong. I am there with my name and a bubble to be filled in, which has been very exciting. The Libertarian Party of Alabama did a lot of hard work to make that possible, and we're excited to be staying on the ballot for future voting cycles to come.
Excellent. That's awesome accomplishments your party's making.
Yes. It was really exciting. We are needing to in order to maintain ballot access, because they make that it's a little tricky here in Alabama. In order to remain on the ballot, we need to have candidates get 20% or more in a statewide race, which mine is not. I'm only on the ballot for my little district, but we have these other candidates such as Ruth Page Nelson for lieutenant governor, or Jimmy Blake for governor, John Sophocleus for U.S. Senate. All three of those candidates will be on every ballot in the state, and we are projecting some pretty good numbers. We're really excited for the outcomes of those races and for being able to maintain that ballot access so that we can continue to push forward as a state party.
Yes. So do you have a team working with you, or are you doing this all by yourself?
I'm doing it all by myself. You talk about my campaign and us, and I have, my husband has promised to vote for me, and he has taken a lot off of my plate so that I could campaign more strongly than I would have otherwise. I have a few other friends in the area who are excited to help me out with door knocking and things like that, but for my campaign, there's not that big of a team, but in many ways there shouldn't need to be.
Sure.
I shouldn't need to have, 1,000 staffers to be able to get the word out. If I can't do something on my own, then I'm probably not trying hard enough, or maybe I'm even actively trying not to be found. So I haven't found it to be too big of a handicap, especially for the size of my district and the size of my race. So it's a little bit just me with the support of some friends and family in the area that I've enlisted to help do a little bit of door knocking. But otherwise, myself and other candidates, especially the local candidates in the surrounding districts, have been helpful in going to those events together, and we're trying to be a rising tide to raise all ships as we kind of help each other out.
Sure. So, Angela, kindly tell our audience how they can support your campaign.
One of the biggest supports for my campaign is through social media outreach, making sure everybody, helping me to make sure everybody knows I'm there, I exist, and what I stand for. That's one of the biggest helps that I could use right now. If anybody else wants to knock on doors for me, I still have a stack of door hangers to pass out. And then beyond that, my campaign is helped by donations to the Libertarian Party of Alabama, which you can go to lpalabama.org and click on the donate tab. Myself and other candidates are all helped through those donations, but if they go there, then I don't have to do as much filing at the end of this. It's a little bit less of a headache. And as I said, I'm not looking for a lot of monetary support because I don't think that running for office needs to cost all that much money. So largely I'm just looking for word of mouth. Tell your friends, let them know the Libertarians are here, let them know what Libertarians like myself stand for, and then show up to the polls on November 8th. We have about 2 more days until voting registration ends, so please get registered, go to the polls on November 8th, and let your voice be heard.
Do you have early voting in your state?
We do. We do have early voting in our state. That is open right now. I think the last day for that is November 4th. I should have pulled that up to look at it. So early voting is happening right now, and that is always welcome as well.
Awesome. Angela, thank you kindly for coming on the podcast today and talking about your exciting campaign. We appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to chat and to say a little bit more for the people here of District 8.
All right. All the best to you and your campaign and all your other personal and professional endeavors.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye now.
Bye.